And the People's Town Hall live on Channels Television. Mr. Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, and his running mate, Senator Yusuf Datti, both of them are on the stage answering questions from Nigerians. This is a different town hall in the sense that Nigerian people are the ones engaging the candidates themselves. Let's get some questions now from the social media. This one is from Facebook and is from Sarah Inyamoko Felix Ina. And she's saying, please, Mr. Obi should rightly tell us what plans he has for the men on uniform, in bracket, our security agents and their families, especially those who have lost their loved ones to insurgency and those who still dedicate their lives to this fight.
Well, first and foremost is to ensure that they are really motivated and encouraged, and that we go a long way in ensuring that, one, they are properly insured, and if anything goes wrong, that we give them compassionate compassion as a society by being part and then looking after their families. We must motivate them to be able to take risks for the country. We have had a case of where recently I was telling somebody that I'm looking for phone numbers of police people that lost their lives so I can call their families, visit them, or things like that. When I was governor, people can tell you about what I was able to do for the police people that had even ordinary accidents. We need to show them, support them, let them feel that they're part of the society, they're cared by Nigeria.
There are a few other questions coming from Facebook, but let me go to Twitter now. This is from Josie at Call Me Josie. This is quite a sensitive question. And the question is asking, it says, tribal militia men are overtaking militias in southern Kaduna, Benue, Niger, Plateau, and recently Enugu states, and settling in their ancestral lands. How will these government stop the influx of nomadic militia gangs in these rural areas?
They are part of what we intend to, again, discuss. It's not something that I went to on 25th of December. I spent my Christmas with people in IDP camp in Benue. I listened to them. And I told them that if I'm the president of this country, I will take your issue personal. Because as long as you're in IDP camp, Nigeria is in IDP camp, no Nigerian will leave his ancestral land to live in a camp in Nigeria and will say, we have a country. So we are going to sit down to discuss with them and the invaders, if there is something that I will be open to discuss. And arrive at, again, an agreement that will make each of them to live peacefully.
Let's go to the economy now. The National Association of Traders, they are represented here, and they will ask him questions. Please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ijoma Anforo, representing the National Association of Nigerian Traders. Good evening, His Excellency. Good evening, Dr. Ahmed. We want to ask, as traders, we have noted your plan to move Nigeria from a consumption-based economy to a production-centered economy, and it will require some import substitution, I'm sure. It's a tough process. It will take, it takes tough decisions and serious willpower to do that. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, already 130 million Nigerians are living in poverty. This will require tightening our belts according to the structural adjustment program of the 80s and on. What plans do you have to make sure that the already worn out populace are not cast into more hardship, especially in the short run when you start taking these decisions. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Maybe I need more clarification. I'm a trader myself. I don't think you will require what you say, that it will require more tightening of belts, it will require import substitution and everything. Here, okay, let me give you an example of, we can look at the issues where, when we talk about moving Nigeria from consumption to production, there's no reason why we should be talking about hunger today when we have vast land, uncultivated land all over the place. That will not stop any or affect any form of importation. You know, if we stop importing foods and everything, you're going to pull more people out of poverty. Because if you go, like states that use, for example, if you look at the poor states of Nigeria today, Niger is there. Niger has vast uncultivated land. If by cultivating it, you're going to pull more people out of poverty, more people will be employed, and by that you start value added, which is what I'm talking about. When that value added, and that will even add to exports, I don't see why you're going to, what you're saying will apply.
Okay. Let's take an economist, Dr. Paul Alaje, who is sending this question from Lagos.
Your Excellency, there is no economy without energy. Between 2016 to 2022, Nigerians are now paying more for even before Putin occupied Ukraine. The electricity significantly increased. The cost of PMS has also increased. What are you going to do to help Nigeria? Started intervention in power sector. Started intervention in power sector. President Yar'Adua, President Jonathan, and now President Buhari. They all have tried their bit, but power seems to be stubborn. How do you intend to overcome darkness in Nigeria and once and for all give Nigeria stable power supply? Are you going to cancel the existing contract with the DISCOs and GENCOs, or what exactly are you going to do to make industry produce more, to improve unemployment, and to make power available for homes for all Nigerians? Your Excellencies, in 2015,
question. This power issue is at the center of our economy. We get it right, we get a lot of things wrong. I'd like you to tackle the issue of power. What would you do?
Well, let me reply what Paul said first. He said it's stubborn. I don't think the power is stubborn. It is the people who are trying to solve it that are not doing the right things. We're not the only country that have power problem. People have solved it everywhere. It's not this is not a rocket science. It's been done in several countries of the world. So why is our own different? Yes, there have been issues where we say that the privatization of the process which was started or completed did not go well, but we're not going to revisit or cancel existing positions. No, we're going to make it work. What we need to do in power is to unbundle first the transmission line. Because today, we're actually generating up to 10,000. But the transmission line cannot carry that. Support the DISCO, we're going to support the GENCOs who are existing, unbundle the transmission line, support the DISCOs to make sure that at least whatever is produced is willed and distributed accordingly. That is the first thing you're going to do. And you have to do this strictly under a guideline properly supervised. Then you have to open up like South Africa has done. They have power issue like us. Even when there's 60 million and they're generating almost 40-something thousand, they declared emergency and said if anybody can generate up to 100 megawatts without license. If somebody who is 60 million generating for something thousand, almost 50,000, declare the emergency, we declare war here on power. I see how if we will consume everybody, we will consume us. But we must get power.
You were in Egypt. What did you learn when you went there?
Of course, it's a very easy thing. Egypt did the same thing. Egypt had below about 20,000. They found that from Arab Spring, one of their studies showed that power is a critical issue. Today, Egypt is generating almost 60,000. In fact, Egypt is exporting power to Europe. If this thing can be done around us, South Africa, Egypt, why not Nigeria?
Practically, Mr. Obi, should you win this election in February, in practical terms, how much of power do you estimate that you'll be able to give Nigerians, say after 2 years of being in office?
Can you
tell Nigerians who are not ready?
It's committed. They don't know. They need to be written as well.
No, you have the platform.
When I did present it, they said my manifesto is all they want. Now that I presented, you should do it.
Now you have the opportunity. It's for the people of Nigeria.
I've said within 4 years, first 4 years, we'll be able to generate, distribute not less than 20,000. But I can tell you we're going to do far more than that. It's going to be war. What happened to, like the vice presidential candidate have said, 2 of us are coming from a different, this is going to be a generational change. We are going to show Nigerians what they've ever seen before.
You have something to say about the issue of power, because I'm going to bring another interesting issue from the question from the second question from Paul Aladio.
Nigerians should not be afraid to spend if you are spending correctly and you are going to get value. And this is a national attitudinal revolution we have to adopt. If you scare your government to think that the moment you touch some economic fundamentals, you are going against the people, that economic doctrine has given way to value chain processes. I used to say that why buy fuel cheap and buy security more expensive? Nigerians, so long as the domestic demand that will be engendered from the injection of money by a new government that is able to save from waste, a new government that is able to engender investment, okay? So long as the marginal increase, after marginal increase, is going to bring you to a level that you are paying the realistic commercial level price for either energy or electricity, then Nigerians should develop this attitude of accepting and reasoning with their government. Because a government does not operate in vacuum. We need to let Nigerians know well ahead of time that this revolution coming, your understanding and your participation is it actually. There is nothing that can be achieved without the willing participation of the people. And then the pricing is what matters. Economists, we have to understand the era has been changing. There was an era in which it was taken for granted that electricity must come cheap. Then to an era that government will now be adjusting it depending on, then to a level in which they have to pay the commercial rate. Now, what is the commercial rate? If the commercial rate is high, the industry must be brave enough to pay, because if the people use all sorts of arguments to refuse to pay, then you have a problem. It will not work, and government will have to continue to subsidize.
Let's listen to yet another question. This one, I guess, is on inflation from Dr. Alaje, the economist.
Your Excellencies, in 2015, when the incumbent administration began, exchange rate at official window was less than 200 naira, and at parallel market it was around 400 naira. Today, exchange rate is worse off. We now have over 450 at official window and over 720 at parallel market. This has implication on inflation, it has implication on poverty, hunger, and deprivation. And more importantly, the Debt Management Office revealed around the first quarter of 2021 that over ₦1 trillion was added to our debt profile simply because the Central Bank of Nigeria devalued Naira. If you were the president of Nigeria, how do you intend to help Nigeria with a stable exchange rate? What are the practical steps? What would you do so that the Naira in Nigeria's pocket will not continue to go worse off?
All right.
Paul, I and you know that the only thing that drives exchange rate is your reserve, and your reserve is as a function of your exports. When you're not producing anything and you're not exporting anything, there's no way you can control that. You just have to move into production. And you just have to move into production. I'm giving this example all over the place. You can't have a country like Nigeria with 200 million people living on 926,000 square kilometers of land. Our total export, Paul, you know, in 2021 is 18.9 trillion naira. If you use that the exchange rate on the average 400 and 700, use 650 of the average pricing. It's about $30 billion annually if you have it. If you're able to get out the receipt, $30 billion for a huge country like this. Compared with Vietnam, half of our population of 100 million living on 331,000 square kilometers, a third of our land. Their total export last year, or 2021, is over 350 billion. And they all manufacture and produce goods. We did, including oil, 30 billion. They did include in alone 30-something billion. So we need to start producing and exporting. 2, oil, which ordinarily is your main source of foreign exchange income, is that being stolen? You are the only OPEC country, apart from Venezuela, that could not meet your quota because people in government are stealing the oil. So it is a mess. You need to deal with all this. Otherwise, go and look at what happened in Angola. Angola was able, because of Ukraine war and the oil price went up, Angola was able to bring down their inflation, bring down their rate of exchange. Go and see what they improved. It was almost twice what it is today in Angola. But because our own, we have not the oil to sell. What we sold was stolen and everything. And you have to control your financial rascality. What is inflation in Nigeria today? Paul, you know that. One is the biggest is food insecurity, which is fueled by insecurity. That's the biggest inflation we have today is food inflation. That is fueled by insecurity. Followed with the fact that you have a problem with the exchange rate because you're no longer getting oil receipts. And then, of course, the financial rascality, you're throwing money in an unproductive space. Look at your level of your money supply. It's about 4 times your productive supply. Your GDP grew in the last quarter of 2022 by 2.25%, but your money supply grew by 11%. So that means you're throwing more money in an unproductive sector. So we need to put production. We'll start solving that problem. Otherwise, you're going to have a problem. And once you start doing it, you have to make these 2 rates. We must not contribute this criminal rate of exchange.
Mr. Obi, the Manufacturers Association representative is in the room, but there is something I would like to clear, and this is a very quick one. There is a lot of blame game around on the issue of the fiscal part of the economy, the policies of the CBN. Who would you blame for that?
Well, I blame the physical side. You know, often at times we blame those who are working. when we should blame those who are in charge. I have a situation in Nigeria that I say it very often. There was an agency in Nigeria that was, but this was about 20-30 years ago. I was involved in the probe. They bought a house. This agency bought a property in United Kingdom. 400. That property is supposed to be 400,000 pounds. But this agency paid 2.4 million pounds. Because this is a property I know, and I knew where and that's the environment, that there's no way a property can cost that much. Because, of course, it's not here that people can do anything. If you Google in order and say, property in this area, they showed me. So I decided I must see to the 8th. In the end, it was clear that there was a directive from a big man who told a young person to pay that price and said that that is the price. So the question became, should we sack this person who opposed for fear of his job was doing what the young man said, or do we deal with the big man? Everybody said we deal with him. I said no, you can't deal with him. He was just merely obeying orders. And in Nigeria, when you don't know where the next thing will come from, you probably do certain things that you ordinarily not do when you know where the next thing will come from. And when I confronted the man, he told me, he said, as I thought this man giving him this order, his wife was, this happened to him, this happened to him, and if he doesn't obey, they're bundling him back. And then his children was all going to school. So as far as it's concerned, even if he wants 10 times that, he'll do it. So I'm not holding fault for doing the wrong thing, but let's go to the source. That's why I like to say, if you don't do the wrong thing, those below will not do it.
So, I mean,
if
you win the election, the CBN structure as it is today, would you leave it or would you do something about it?
Don't worry what I'll do. The rest are sure that I'll do the right thing.
All right. Quickly, because the manufacturer association.
I'm not giving a different position to Mr. President in waiting. I'm only adding. You said who would he blame? We should blame the head. We should blame the president. That's what His Excellency Peter Obi has been saying. Hold us responsible for anything that happens. In the first 16 years of this democracy, they had the patience to award contracts, even if they were inflated, and be following up and be collecting. Here come the last 8 years of our democracy. They were so pressed for 12 years while they were looking for power. So pressed that they had no time to wait for the contracts to be awarded, if it is roads or bridges. They just wanted cash the next day. That aggravated the actions in CBN. The very, very wide gap that the economist spoke about. That also informed quick cash, like when there was COVID palliatives, that cash of billions had to go and change, and you know this cash is not being given into it, it's directly converted into cash. So there became an era. I say an era, I didn't say government too. I'm not criticizing anybody. There came an era in which they became more and more impatient for quick cash. That was responsible largely for the very sharp increase. Well, you know, like I always say, we've been keeping the records. After the first wave of COVID, when government tried to soften the sit at home, go and study how the dollar jumped from 365 to 485. Find out what happened in Zone 4. Find out what happened to the BDCs all around. These things are there for anybody to verify. In summary, we have suffered the consequences of some people's burning desire to get rich quickly, and the easiest way was manipulation of exchange, which already Mr. President in waiting has already said they are going to be merged. No brainer. No brainer.
Correct.
Why should people go into risks and long-term investments to make a tiny percentage of what families and friends of the powers that be will make between Wednesday and Saturday when the CBN gives out exchange rate. And these are people who came out to say that everybody who ruled in Nigeria before them was a thief. They came out to be greater, in quotes, what they call others than those.
All right. Let's ask a lot of people will be wondering, already thinking about what you said, what you do about the CBN, and maybe somehow that will spill out in the course of today's town hall. Let's listen to the representative of the Manufacturers Association.
My Excellencies, Kayode Alonga is my name, representing the Manufacturer Association of Nigeria. I've listened with great excitement, times without number, the promise to move Nigeria largely from consumption to production. And I would like to ask a question about port infrastructure, efficient port infrastructure and services. There's a strategic relationship between port, import and export. You have touched deeply on it tonight. With what we have today, a country of about 200 million population, with a far bigger economic potential than Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Kenya, Egypt, Morocco. We have, a port inefficiency that is crippling the performance of our economy. If elected president come 2023, what would you do differently to improve efficiency of our port infrastructure and service? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And you know that 20 years ago, the biggest port in terms of operation, the busiest was Singapore. In 20 years, Singapore have moved from number 1 to about number 4 or 5 today. Because the port of Shanghai, other ports have come up, 3 have come up in China. Even Rotterdam, that used to be the biggest, the few have all gone. So these things change as quickly as possible. The reason why you still have the inefficiency kind is that people live off that inefficiency. We're going to remove them. There's nothing in it. Ports Authority is something I followed. Are you aware that Nigerian Ports Authority is the only port that I know in the world that have office outside this country of operation? They have office in London. They even have guest house in London. Can you believe it? For running a port in Nigeria, we are going to dismantle this confusion and get the country to work. That's what we're going to do. It's simple. There's nothing, it's not a rocket. I keep saying it's not a rocket science. It's been done. People have to do the right thing. Port is not difficult. Nigeria is lucky that we have ports all over the place. All these oceans you see are ports. What is happening to Ebon? What is happening to, look at the Port Harcourt ocean terminal that started by Shagari. See today, it's not functioning to how it should. Look at Warri. There's so many places everywhere in Nigeria is ports. And you cannot just open it up. Because but people deliberately don't want it to be opened up, because if it opens up, they will have the confusion. And that's what is happening everywhere in Nigeria. They don't want to open up the economy where people's talent and hard work will match up the opportunity, because they will not have anything to steal.
How would you change it? What would you do specifically to turn that around, to change that scenario?
Easily bring private sector to build ports and manage it. That's what is happening everywhere in collaboration with the government. Singapore lives only off ports. I can tell you people who live off ports everywhere, except Nigeria.
Claudia, hi.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Good evening, Your Excellencies. Good evening, everyone. My name is Gloria Sen. I represent the Nigerian Union of Journalists. Sir, our question has to do with the issue of removal of fuel subsidy. Considering that this current administration has said that by June 2023, the subsidy will be removed, Is it going to be your priority in your first 100 days in office? How sustainable is subsidy to the Nigerian economy? Thank you.
Thank you, God.
Well, they have removed it. That's what they've done. But I can assure you, it will go immediately. Subsidy, I've said it before, is organized crime. And I cannot allow it to stay a day longer. What they're telling you is not what it is. Half of the subsidy that's been, what has been mentioned is not subsidy. First, that we consume the quantity that is not supposed to be consumed there. We are the same population with Pakistan. They consume below 50